Hey, greetings. Thanks for joining me. It's Fred in Alaska. Like to give a shout out to Russell. Happy birthday over there in Dillingham coming up this Friday. And what I want to share with you today comes from right nearby, just west of Dillingham, Snake River. Now, this, according to what Corey was saying, happened about a decade ago, okay? So, what he was doing was helping a friend of his, Bob, take a skiff that he was trying to sell up the Snake River up to the lake, and there was a local guy up there that wanted to purchase it if he could get it there and whatnot, and he would, purchase it. So Bob happened to have picked this particular skiff up from a different outfitter buddy who was updating his fleet, basically, the boats he used for his guide service. So what Corey said was he agreed to go along just for the adventure of it, right? Which I totally get. I would too. Hold on here. This camera's a little janky. Goodness gracious. But so he goes along with them, and he's having a great time because he spent a couple days up the Nushkak River where Bob was getting the skiff from and all this stuff, and it was an adventure, right? And so Corey was actually going to work on a fishing boat once the season started up. So this was just before everything started kicking off real heavy. So he goes with Bob, and they get up the Snake River, and they were just above the tidal area, which is quite a ways in there, And so they come up to this spot, and the motor was overheating. It wasn't filtering water through, right? So Bob wanted to stop before it caused any damage and work it out. You know what I mean? He had tools with him and everything. He's just getting ready to sell this thing. He doesn't need it acting up when he gets to the potential buyer. And this is still relatively early in the morning from what Corey was saying. And so they stopped, and Bob gets to work. Corey brings a bear gun, and he starts exploring, basically. He lets Bob know, hey, I'm going to walk through the brush over this way, and I'm going to check out the marsh over there and whatnot, right? There's a couple ponds a little further over and whatnot, and Corey liked wildlife, like ducks and stuff, and there happened to be ducks and some snow geese and some other stuff landing over there. So he wanted to go and check it out. Bob's like, be careful, watch out for bears, don't be long, check in with me every once in a while so I know you're okay. Corey's like, sure, no problem. And Corey isn't an outdoorsman at all. You know what I mean? This job on the salmon boat, he got it out of happenstance from a friend in Seattle. So he's genuinely like awestruck, like the beauty of the area, fresh air, you know what I mean? He's having the time of his life initially. So he gets up and he's watching the swampy area, and he's, got an eye on the ducks and stuff, and he starts catching this weird smell, and he was like, I heard bears smell bad, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back. So he turns around, he gets up from where he was sitting, and he starts walking back towards where the skiff is parked. And, he's about maybe 100 yards away-ish, somewhere in there, maybe a hair more. And he could see, Bob down there doing his thing, the cowling's off, the motor's kicked up, and Bob's obviously still working on the skiff. So he turns around and starts looking around to see if he could spot this bear. He hollers back towards Bob after he circles around and, didn't see anything. He hollers back. Bob waves him over, right? Like, come over here. I can't hear you or whatever. So he takes a short jot, just gets back over there, and he said it was weird the whole time he was walking back to tell Bob about the weird smell. He kept feeling watched. And so when he gets over there, Bob says, hey, I don't have that much longer. I'll be done. We'll fire it up, all this kind of stuff, and we should be able to get going here. I want to get up there and get done. So, Corey's like, no problem. Hey, there's a weird smell. And he goes, it's probably just a bear. Just stay close. Don't go so far away. So that way, if something, God forbid, does happen, I can help out. You know what I mean? And be closer or whatever. And so Corey's like, yeah, no problem. Asked him how long he'd be. Said about 45 more minutes tops. And Corey starts walking off again. And he goes about half the distance and he's getting that smell again, right? So he's really nervous because he doesn't know squat about bears. So he said he started looking around and there was just small brush mainly for the most part. But off to his left, he said, and he's guessing because he wasn't all that great with distances, but he's guessing maybe 50 to 70 feet away was this brush that seemed to be moving with no wind blowing, right? So he was immediately like, oh, hey bear, starts yelling out. His friend Bob is like, get your ass back over here, you know, because he heard him saying, hey bear. Bob wanted him close. So Bob stops what he's doing, grabs his handgun, gets out of the skiff and up on the bank and starts walking in the direction where Corey's standing. Because Corey said once that brush started moving, he felt like his legs were cemented to the ground. He got instantly scared really, really bad and was like he was stuck in place. You know, the flight, you know, fight or flight, he was stuck, you know. And so Bob's walking over to him and he said, you know, Bob had covered about half the distance when all of a sudden the brush just came alive with this god-awful noise and the brush was shaking and it was a growl mixed with a scream, right? And that unglued his feet, he said. His feet were no longer in cement and he took off running. Well, Bob's walking his path straight to him, right? So all this transpires. Bob's standing there. He's got his gun out and he's looking in the direction of the brush like, what the hell? Corey was spooked like a jackrabbit. He said he turned and took off running. And as he was running, he wasn't watching where he was going. He was looking back at the brush and plows right into Bob because Bob was focused on the brush. Didn't realize Corey was that freaked out and was going to mow him down. You know what I mean? Like, so he knocks him over. They both jump back up real quick. You know, Bob's cussing, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, you watch where in the hell you're going, man. You don't run. You don't run. Corey wasn't hearing none of it because when he had fallen down, he had dropped the shotgun and just continued running to the skiff. You know, and Bob's trying to get him to stop. Bob holsters the pistol, picks up the shotgun, and is looking over because that situation's still happening over in the brush. Bob was like, what the hell? Corey could hear Bob saying, what the hell? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? You know? And according to what Corey said, when he got to the skiff, he's looking back at Bob, yelling at him, come on, come on, come on. And as he's doing so, he said Bob turned and looked at him to tell him to quiet down. He was trying to listen because there was some noises going on that Corey couldn't make out. Well, as Bob is looking at him, telling him to calm down, Corey can see past him into the brush and this thing stands up, right? And Corey said when that thing stood up, he instantly felt sick to his stomach. He felt like his everything just churned and curdled in his stomach immediately. He said it was dark. That's all he saw was like a dark man-like figure. When Bob turns and sees it, Bob was like, holy, you know, he started freaking out and he points the shotgun in that direction and starts yelling, get out of here, get out of here. This thing lets out a weird bellow. He couldn't really explain it too well, but it sounded just this god-awful noise. It lets out this bellow towards them and then nonchalantly starts walking off. And Bob, as soon as it turns and is walking away and not focused on Bob, Bob starts running back to the skiff as well and is yelling at Corey to get the cowling on the motor, or whatever, right? So, you know, Corey doesn't know what the hell he's doing. There was still work to do on it, and, you know, there's some tools out and stuff. You know, Corey didn't know, so he just froze. He was like, I don't know. So Bob comes running over, hands him the shotgun and says, you keep an eye out on that thing and tell me what it's doing, right? Corey wanted no part of it. He was freaked out. So he's standing there on one of the rungs of the skiff trying to look that direction. And, you know, once it walked off and got a certain distance, he couldn't see shit. Bob's doing his thing with the motor, getting what he was doing back together. And once he did and fires it up, it seemed to be working better. You know, the stream of water that circulates through, because it's got this little pump that sucks water through as a coolant and spits it out, you know what I mean? And so it seemed to be operating better or whatever. And so they push off, they back out, and they start ripping up river. So according to what Corey said happened next was they get about 3 bends up, and the bends are real tight. So in a big scheme of things, they weren't traveling very far north. It was just, it was eaten up by these curves going around in the river. And again, the location I show on the map is strictly a reference. It's not the exact place because Corey was unable to figure out the exact place. First time up there, a lot of first times for him that day, right? So he said when they were about 3 more bends up going along, he was freaking out, and Bob was like laughing like, I don't know what the hell that was, man, but it was massive, And so they're going along, and Bob slows down, like throttles down, and is looking up on the bank and points, and Corey turns and looks, and there it was standing over off the riverbank looking at him in the brush. It was standing there. It wasn't doing anything but just standing and watching. And Bob starts yelling, at it and whatever, and it stood there. And finally he stopped yelling and whatever he was doing, and fired back up, and they continued on. The cell went through. They got rid of the skiff or whatever. They got a ride from a friend from Snake Lake back to Dillingham, and they were gonna, go out the next day back to camp. Bob was gonna return to his job basically, and Corey was just gonna stay in Dillingham. Corey said that when he was in Dillingham, he went down to the CN bar, right? And that's right down from N&N. Anyone who's been to Dillingham knows CN bar, right? So he said he was in there, and this was like a day after, and it just opened, so there was only like maybe 2 people in there, but he saw an older native guy, and he doesn't remember the guy's name, but he went over to him and asked him, hey, you ever hear anything weird about the Snake River? Here's what happened to us, right? And lays it out, and he said the old native guy just kind of chuckled at him and just went on about his business. Didn't even really, outside of chuckling at him, give any acknowledgement to what anything Corey said. And, I told him that's not uncommon, But he thought the old guy was rude, which is fair enough. He was just looking for some info. But, hey, it is what it is in a small town. I want to thank Corey for sharing. And, for people that go out there wanting an encounter, you gotta be careful what you wish for, because things happen, man, and the shock to the system is just, it's not what you think it's going to be. It's not a Patterson-Gimlin moment. A lot of times it's real quick, and it's startling, and it's, for a lot of people, life-changing, I want to thank Corey for reaching out. What else was there? I believe that was it. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm backed up on some encounters, so I'm going to try to get them out every other day and get caught up. And for those who are waiting for their encounters to be published, please be patient. I'm getting to them. And I appreciate your guys' patience on that, and we'll catch you on the next one.